Hi, welcome to Introduction to JavaScript and TypeScript Class 1 and 2. I have decided to combine Class 1 and 2 into a single video because we spent some time setting up and talking about other programs in class. I will not cover the other programs in this video. I plan to make separate videos for those things. So let's just jump straight into learning about JavaScript in Visual Studio Code. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder for our projects. Right here inside my documents, I have created a folder called Git. Inside that folder, I will create a new folder called org attack, like that. That's all we need to do in here for now. So I will close this folder again. And now in Visual Studio Code, I will go to File. I will go to Open Folder here. This is not exactly what you did in class, but this is the correct way. Open folder, and I will navigate to the folder I just created. So Documents, Git, org attack, and select folder. And now Visual Studio Code will open my projects in that folder. Right now the only thing it has is the welcome message. You can see over here I have the only thing I have open is the welcome, and there's nothing else in my project. So I will click new file here, and I will call it org attack.js. JS is JavaScript. Now I have the file open. I can close this welcome message here, and if I click this box here, I can also close this side window. This just means if by accident we close the file, I can open here again, and I can just click it and it will open again. That will come in handy later. The first thing I want to do in my code is we want to create an org. So I'm going to write const here, which means the thing I'm going to write now is a constant. And I'm going to write org name. That is the name of my constant, equals, quotation marks, grok. So I have created a constant with the name org name and the value grok. And I want to put a semicolon here. I also want to create a constant org max health equals 5, and I want to create org health. So max health is how much health it can have maximal, and org health is the current health. And when we start, its current health should just be the same as the max health, so we can use the old value. And there's autocomplete in Visual Studio Code. Every time it's possible to use autocomplete, we should. So when this is highlighted, I can click Tab or I can click Enter on my keyboard. I prefer Tab. It's up to you. Here we need another constant, org status is healthy, and constant is the org happy right now. Org happy equals true. So if you notice, at the end of some of the lines I put a semicolon, and some of the lines I have not. JavaScript does not care if you do that or not. I prefer to do it because I'm used to writing in languages that require it. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. Right now I just created these 5 variables. They don't do anything. So I want to write something out so we can see what's going on. The way I do that is I'm going to write console dot, I'm going to write LO, and I can already see it's here in the list. So I can use my arrows up and down until I have selected the correct one. It's the top one. So I press Tab. parenthesis begin, Visual Studio Code will automatically put the parenthesis end so I don't forget it. And inside this, I just want to write what it is that I want to output. So I'm going to write 2 quotation marks so that it's actually some text I'm writing, the org, and then I want to put the name of the org, so I can do space here, and after the quotation mark I put a plus, and then I can write org name like this, and let's add a little bit more. So I'm going to plus and a new piece of string is ready. Let's do this. Let's save. I can do file and save, or as you can see here, it's Control S. I prefer to use Control S because it's faster. Here at the top, where the current file is highlighted, you can see there's a circle here at the end. That means that there are some changes I have made that has not been saved yet. I'm going to press Control S on the keyboard now, and the circle goes away. That means now there are no unsaved changes. That will become important. Now I press Terminal and New Terminal. So down here at the bottom, you can see it's possible for me to write some text down here. I can write, we have installed Node on the computer. That is just a way to run JavaScript directly in Visual Studio Code. And the way I start that is just I write Node, and then I press space, and I want to write what is it I want it to run. And now I press Tab on my keyboard, and I can select one of the files I have. I only have one file, so that is easy. And now I press Enter. The script will just run through the code, so it will create these 5 constants. There's no output here, and then it comes to here and it says, oh, let me output this. The org name is ready. So we can see here the org grog is ready. Oh, you see there's no space here. That is because right here I forgot a space on purpose. So between org name and is, I need a space. I need to write that manually. Now I'm going to go down here, and as you can see, the mistake is still here, and that is because I did not save. Up here you can see it's not saved. So let me go back up here, Control S, back down here. Arrow up on my keyboard is just go through the commands we have given before. I could just choose to write everything again, but I'm a little bit too lazy for that normally, so I just press arrow up one time to go to the previous command. Enter, and now I have a space here. Let's add some more information to our org. So instead of just having the org name is ready, I'm going to write how many hit points it has. So here I'm going to change this into has. I'm going to add a space here. Move outside of my quotation mark. Plus. Now I want org health. I can use my arrow keys up and down here. I do not want to write all of this text again. I'm too lazy. It's good to be lazy. So I'm going to select org health here, and I'm going to press Tab plus quotation marks, a slash, plus org max health again, arrow down, selected, Tab, plus quotation marks, space, hit points, period. Save, go down into my terminal, arrow up one time, and enter. The org grog has 5 out of 5 hit points, which looks okay, but I think I would like grog to be in quotation marks, so it's more obvious that it's a name. So I'm going to go back up here now. I use the double quotation marks to show JavaScript that this is a string, but I still have this single quotation mark. So right here, before the double quotation mark, I can put a single quotation mark. And then over here, after the org name, I can put another single quotation mark. So let me save that, go down to the terminal, arrow up, enter. And now you can see there are single quotation marks around the org's name. I think that's a lot better. Now there are actually 3 different kinds of quotation marks we can use. So let me try to go down here. There are the single quotation marks, which we used above to put around the org name. There are the double quotation marks that we used to show right here that this is a string for JavaScript. And all the way to the left on the keyboard, to the left of the 1 key, there is sort of like an inverted quotation mark that looks like this. See, it is not the same. This special quotation mark is one that we use when we want to make this string connection a little bit easier to read. So the name is string interpolation. So I'm going to take this first one here, double quotation mark, and I'm going to replace it with that special quotation mark. And I'm going to take the last all the way over here to the right, and I'm also going to replace that. So what I can do now is I can say delete this double quotation mark here and delete this plus here, and I'm going to delete this and this plus here. So now it just says org name here. I want to put the org name here, so I'm going to write $ and a curly bracket begin, and at the end of my my org name I'm going to write curly bracket end. So you can see it changes color a little bit. JavaScript will understand when we are inside this special quotation and I write $ curly bracket. Whatever is inside this curly bracket here is actually code that it needs to run and add to the string. So I'm going to do that for org health and org max health as well. So let's remove this and this here, like that, and $ curly bracket end, $ curly bracket and curly bracket end. Yeah. Save, go down to the terminal, arrow up, run the code. And it gives the exact same output, which is exactly what I expected. I think it's a little bit easier to read because now it just says the org name has org health / org max health hit points instead of a lot of pluses in the middle. So here's a challenge for you. Create a second org. So here below, create another org that has a name and health and the console log so I can see that it works. I'll give you a few seconds for that. Pause the video and do it. We want to be a little bit clever about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy all the code we made already. Control C, go down here, Control V, and now it complains I cannot make org name because I already have org name. Cannot make org health because I already have org health. So the way we're going to solve that is we're just going to write 2 at the end of all of them. I want to give him a new fancy name, so we're just going to call him Brag, like that. And down here, org name, I want to give him the new name, new health, new max health. So the way I can see that it's the new one we are looking at is I'm going to change his health to 7. Let's save, go down, arrow up to run the code. And I have 2 orgs. One has 5 hit points and one has 7 hit points. This doesn't really work if we want to create 100 orgs, because now we have to create 100 org names here, org name 1, org name 2, org name 3. And what happens then if we at some point want 101 orgs? Then we need to go back into the code and add 101 names. So let's have a look at what we can do with arrays. The first thing I want to do when we're going to talk about arrays is I want to make a new file for that. So I'm going to open my Explorer here. I'm going to click New File, and I'm going to call it array.js. Enter. And it automatically opens my file view here. I'm going to close this again. You can choose to close the org attack for now, or you can keep it open. I will just close it. The way I define an array is that I say const, just like before. I'm going to call it a list because we're going to use it as if it's a list. And the name is my list. And normally we would put like a number or a string here, but the way I tell JavaScript that this is an array is I use these square brackets like this, and I want to use the semicolon here. So now I have, if I mouse over my list, it says it's a array of anything, and that's okay. Now I want to add something to that array. So I'm going to say my list. Again, select the thing, tab, dot, push. And that push needs a parenthesis here at the end. Visual Studio Code will automatically add ending parenthesis. And here I will just add hello world. Let me save that. Go down to terminal. Now if I press arrow up, it's still org attack. So let's delete that. And I'm going to write node space tab. Now if I press tab again and again and again, I can change between the two files that we have here. I want the array. So I choose array and enter. Nothing happens because I did not add any console.log up here, but at least it did not complain. So let's write console.log. I want to log my list. Let's add a semicolon up here because I said I would. Save, terminal, arrow up, enter. And it outputs square brackets at the start and the end shows that it's a list. And inside the list, I just have hello world. So it looks like it works. Let's add a few more things to our list. So here, after hello world, I'm going to press enter, enter. I'm going to say my list dot push. Let's add a number. Let's add 57. And also my list dot push. Let's add a boolean. Boolean is just true or false value. So let's add false. False. I use tab to complete. I already have a console.log my list, so I'll just save. Go down here, arrow up, enter. So now my list has hello world, 57 and false, just like I expected. Now if I want to know how many items are in my list, obviously I know it right now, but let's say it's a situation where I don't know. For our purposes, we're going to output to the console as usual. It's going to be my list dot, here I have a whole list of things that I can do on an array. But there is one called length right here. That's the one I'm interested in right now. I save. I go down here, arrow up. I can say it says 3 here. So there are 3 items in my array. Now I want item number 1 in that list. So I'm going to write console.log my list. And the way I get a specific item is that I use these square brackets that we used when we initialized the array as well up here. Because I want number 1, I'm going to write 1 here. Save. Go down here, arrow up. And it says 57. But 57 is not the first item. 57 is the second item. So what's going on is that in programming languages, lists and arrays are 0 indexed. So the first item in the list is item number 0, and the second item is item number 1, the third item is item number 2, and so on. So if I want the first item, I have to write 0 here. So that's what I'm going to do. Save, go down and run the code again. And now I actually got the first item in the list. Things are going to get a little bit boring if all we can add are numbers and strings and booleans. So let's create an item by ourselves. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to write const my item equals. The way I'm going to make my own type is that I'm going to use the curly brackets to say there are many things inside this. So I just write one curly bracket begin. Visual Studio automatically adds the curly bracket end. Now here in the middle I'm going to press enter, and Visual Studio knows, oh, that means you also want to put this end curly bracket down on the line down here. Now inside this I can say my item should have a size, and I use a colon to say what is the size, and the size is big. Between properties on an object here, I use a comma to say now I go to the next property, and this is going to be weight colon 10. I don't care what it is. At the end of the last property I don't have to write a comma, but personally I prefer to write a comma here, because then later if I come back to this code and I need to add another property, I don't need to worry about, oh, did I remember to put a comma at the end of the last one. It's fine either way. You can do like this, or you can add the comma here. So let's go down here and say console.log my, and I'm going to use autocomplete here, my item tab, save, terminal, arrow up, enter. And you can see where my array was in square brackets to show that it's an array, my object is in curly brackets to show that this is an object with some properties inside here. It has a size and it has a weight. Of course I can add my new item to my list, and it's simple how to do that. You say my list dot push, and inside my parentheses I just put my item. That's it. I could write console.log down here again, but I don't want that much output, so I'm gonna grab this one from up here. Control X means cut it, and move down here, and Control V. Save, go down into my terminal, arrow up. So now I have hello world, 57, false, and my object, just like I would expect. If I want to get a specific property from my item, let's go back to the item up here. I can say console.log.myItem.size. You can see I have size and weight right here. So let's say size. Save. Before it said here, I got the entire object. Now when I run the code, it says big. I can do the same when I'm getting an object directly. So let's copy this one from up here. Move down here. It is number 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 dot weight. Save. Run. It has weight 10. Let's comment out a bit of the output from our file, because it's starting to get messy down here in the terminal. I'm gonna go to the last line of my terminal. I'm gonna write clear and press enter just to clean it up a little bit. In my code, if ever I want to write some text here just to help me remember what something is, I can go to a blank line, I can write // and I can just write, hello, this is my new comment, like that. It doesn't do anything, that is just to help me. But that also means, I'm going to delete this again, that also means that if there's some code that I do not want to run, I can just put 2 slashes in front of it. And now Visual Studio and JavaScript thinks, oh, this is not code, this is just a comment that is for remembering stuff. So I can take anything I don't want to run right now. And specifically for me, that is these console logs here. And this one. All I want is just to output my entire list so I can see what's going on. Save, go down here. I can still use arrow up. It is not clear. It is node array.js. And it just outputs my entire list for me. Let's see what happens if we try to get or set some values that are not actually in the current range. So let's say console.log. What happens if I try to get item number 20 from my array? I know that there are only 1, 2, 3, 4 items. So I'm going to save this and go down here and run it. And it's going to say undefined. Undefined just means basically throws its hand up in the air and say, I don't know what you're talking about. Which is okay. That's the way JavaScript works. If I want to, let's comment this out. If I want to override something in my array, I can my list item number, let's say it's item number 1 because I want to replace this 57 here. So it's 1, and I can just set it to something new. And now I want to set it to and let's move this console log, my list. No, let's copy this because right now I want to see the difference. Like that. Save. Arrow up. So it was 57 and now it's because I replaced it with this line of code. That's okay. Let's say now I'm going to try to replace something that does not exist in my array. So I'm going to take number 20 and I'm going to replace that with 22, the number 22. And I'm going to copy console log. Save. Let me clear this up down here and run the code again. So it says these are the items before I replaced. Now I replaced something. Then it says after you replaced, there's this item, this item, this item, this big item we created. Then there are 16 empty spots and then there's the number 22. So JavaScript just says, okay, I will put this as place number 20 even though you did not say that you wanted something in between. This is the reason we normally want to use the push. If we just want to add something to a list, we normally use the push so we don't have to keep track of the correct position. Let me comment out a few of these console logs again so we can see what's going on. Here. And I think that's correct. I want to show you a different way to set up a new array. Because this thing where I create the array and then I push and push and push, that can become a little bit annoying if we have to create a lot of things initially. So I can just say const my list2 equals, I can put the curly brackets, and then inside here I press enter. So just like with the, no, this is not curly brackets, this is square brackets. Inside here, the square bracket jumps down to the next line, and I can just put anything I want in here. False, 33, high, true, 11. And I like to end with a comma here, just like before. And then down here, let's output console log my list 2. Save. Let's clear the terminal and run. So it just has false 33, high, true 11. This is just a really fast way to initialize. I can even go up here, and here I'm going to put a curly bracket, press enter, and I can say name John, age 25. So I can make an object directly here in the initialization of the array. Save. Let's clear and run the code. So now it is false 33, high, true 11, and then I have my object right here without having to first create the object and then push it to the array. Let's go back to the org list and see what we can do to improve that now that we learned about arrays. So I'm going to click on my Explorer and I'm going to open org attack. I might want to keep array open right now if you want to look back at it. So all the way at the top here, I'm going to insert a few line breaks and I'm going to just write const and I'm going to write orgs plural, because now I'm going to make a list of orgs equals an empty array like this. But in my list of orgs, I just immediately want to add some orgs. So I'm going to press enter here. I'm going to use the curly brackets to say I want to add an object here. What I want to add is this org here. So let's say name. I don't want to write org name now because I know that inside orgs, so I know that this is an org. It's not necessary to write org name. I will just write name colon grok, and after this I'm comma. If I want, I can go to a new line, or I can stay on the same line. I'm going to stay on the same line here. Max health was 5. Health. Now I cannot reuse the old value because I'm in the middle of setting it up, so I just have to write 5 here as well. I'm going to write status healthy, and I'm going to write if it's happy or not colon true, and I want a comma here at the end. That means I can delete all of this from the first org. Now it is complaining right here. It says org name did not exist. That's true, because now instead of having org name here, I need to write org 0 dot name, orgs 0 dot name. Let me copy orgs 0 dot. I'm going to go over here, replace this org here with org 0 dot health, and here I'm going to replace org with dot 0 dot max health. That should work. Save. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to clear. I'm going to write node space tab, and I want to select org attack. Oh, there's a mistake here. Let's see. Org max health is not defined. And it says here line 10 character 20, so it's right here. Yes, because this one should have been org max health 2 a while ago. So let's try again. Go down, 2 lines up, clear, 2 lines up, org attack, and this one works. So now the challenge is take the second org and add it up here after the first org and change this console log to output the correct information. I'll give you a few minutes. What I'm going to do is I want to add a second org here. It is important to remember that this, including the curly bracket, is actually just the first item inside my array up here. So after this curly bracket end, I need to add a comma to tell JavaScript that now I'm going to write the second element inside curly brackets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the entire line from the first org, copy it, and go down here and paste it. And now I just need to replace the values inside here. So brag goes here. This one changes to 7. This one changes to 7. The status was healthy and the happiness was true. So that is okay. This console log here, I'm going to copy the entire first line. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to use Shift and arrow down to select this entire line and paste, Control V. And I'm just going to replace the zeros with ones inside here. Like that. Control S, go down, arrow up. It doesn't look different, but it's a lot easier to read and it's a lot easier to maintain. Right now, I do not want this second output, so I'm just going to delete that again. Please add one more org to the list. I will do that right now, and the way I will do it is I will just copy it from my file over here. This is my third org. It's Grunt. He has 5 max health. He has 4 health right now, so his status is damaged and he's not happy. One extra small thing, I want to see all the orgs. So down here I'm going to write console.log orgs with an S, because I want to see all the orgs in my array. So let's clear this and let's look at the output. So first I have the org grog has 5 out of 5 hit points, and then I get a list of my 3 orgs that I have in my inventory. The point of this small code we are making is that we want to make a small kind of game where there's a bunch of rooms. Each room has an org and a treasure. And I want to keep track of how much gold I have. So here under the orgs, I want to add a const for treasures. This is going to be a list of the treasures that I have available. And that's going to be an empty array. It's treasures with an S because I'm going to have many of them inside. I'm going to make the same for rooms, again with an S, just an empty list. And then I'm going to have some gold. And I think I'm going to start with 30 gold. And then down here under my orgs, I'm going to console.log. I want to write how much gold I have. So I'm going to write you have, and I'm going to write this $, and I'm going to write gold pieces of gold. Hooray. And if I run this code, I'm going to clear this, going to run the code. It says you have 30 pieces of gold. Hooray. If it just output this as normal text, then that's because you did not use this special quote character that is to the left of the number 1 on the keyboard. I think I also want to remove these orgs here again because they will just annoy me a little bit later. I don't want to delete it. I just want to comment it out like this. So let's try again. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to clear. and I'm going to run the code. That's a lot better. There's an orc that has 5 hit points, and I have 30 pieces of gold. Hooray! Let's add a few treasures to our list of treasures. So I'm going to go inside my treasures array. I'm going to press enter so I can see that I want to do something. I'm going to use my curly brackets because it's going to be an item. It's going to be an object. I want 2 things in a treasure. I want an amount of gold and I want an item. So I'm going to write here gold colon 10 comma item colon and item colon, and it has to be like a silver sword, whatever you want it to be. I want to add one more, so I have to add a comma here at the end of this object. This object is here. This is one object. I want to add a comma at the end. I want to add one more item. I would like you to do that. I'll give you a few seconds. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to copy it from my other code I have available here. So it has 0 gold and it has a magic hat inside. Sometimes when we code, it is good to make some code that we can reuse. If you know Scratch, it's like the custom block. It is a little bit like here in the console.log. I can just reuse that with some new information every time. The way we do that in JavaScript is that we want to create a function. Creating a function starts by writing the word function so that JavaScript knows that it's a function we want to create. The function I want to create right now is add treasure. Then I need to tell what information should this function receive, and I do that in a parenthesis. Right now we're just going to leave it blank, and then we have a curly bracket that is the code that is going to run every time we use this function. And I'm going to press enter here to make some room inside. What information do I want to receive when I get the function add treasure? I want to get a treasure. Singular treasure is one treasure I want to do. Inside, what code do I want to run? I want to run treasures, my list of treasures dot push, and the thing I want to push to the list is this treasure that I get when I run the function. So I'm just going to write treasure here without the S. So now we have treasure and treasures here. If I single click on treasure, there's a square bracket around there's a square around the word I clicked on, and there's a square around here, which means this is the same thing. If I click on treasures, there's a square around this and there's a square around here. It's the same thing. If I click on orcs, there's a square here, there's a square here, there's a square here, there's a square here. This means these 4 places are actually referring to the same thing. Now down at the end here, I want to say add treasure. You can see it's already in my list of things I can do now. Visual Studio Code understands that when I create a function, I want to use it. So I can just tab, and then I write a parenthesis, and I want to give this function, I want to give it a treasure. So let's create a treasure object here, and I do that with my curly brackets. So I want to write how much money do I want? I want 2 money, and I want an item, and the item I want is snowshoes, like that, and then a semicolon at the end. Challenge right now for you is to add one more treasure the same way on the next line. I'll give you a few seconds. Okay, so I've just copied it from somewhere else, so it's just like this: add treasure, money 1, item helmet. And now I want to make sure that it actually works, so I'm going to write console.log treasures. I want to see all the treasures I have. Let's add another line here. Go down to my terminal. Let's run org attack, and there are 4 I have 4 treasures in my array, 4 objects that is each a treasure. Now that I have orcs and I have treasures, it's time to make some rooms. So here under my add treasure function, I'm going to create one more function that I'm going to call function create room. And what I want for the room is an ID, and I want a treasure. That is what I expect the code to give me. The rest I'm going to get inside the function here. And I'm going to add curly bracket. So the first thing I want to do inside my function is I want to create the object that I'm going to add to my room list. So I'm going to write const room, and that is going to be an object. So I'm going to use my curly brackets. What do I want for the room? I want an ID. So I'm going to write ID colon ID. The first I before the colon is something that belongs to the object I'm creating. So the room has an ID. The second ID here is Visual Studio Code will run around. JavaScript will look around and say, what is this actually pointing at? If I click on this, see there's a square around this, and there's a square around this. So it is the key. The key is ID. It's the key of a property in the room, and it has a value ID that it got from my function header here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab an orc. So I'm going to say orcs.pop. Pop is the opposite of push. Why do I get an error here? Okay, because I forgot to write my orc. I need an orc, and the orc, I'm going to get a pop from the list of orcs I have. Just like we had push, where I push something, pop is the opposite, where I just get the first one. It's a little bit like a pest dispenser, if you know that. You put candy in, and then you can pop them out, and you just get the first one out every time. That is exactly what push and pop means here. I want a treasure for my room, and the treasure key, and the value is just the treasure that I got in my function. And I want to give the room a status. Don't worry about this line here. As soon as we make it into a key, the line disappears. And the status I'm going to say is unexplored. Nobody has been in this room yet. So now my room has been created. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say rooms is my array of rooms above dot push, and what I want to push to that list is the room I just created. And then I'm going to do something new here. I'm going to write return room. Every time I have a function, it always returns a value. If I do not explicitly say what type of value it is just going to be undefined. We've seen undefined before. So if I mouse over my add treasure up here, oh, it actually returns void. It's difficult for me to move my mouse. Oh, here, void. Where my create room now, it returns a room, sort of. We'll get to that later. Now I can go down to after my log of treasures, and I can say create a room. It's going to be room number 1, and it's going to have from my treasures list, it's going to get treasure number 1, and then I'm going to create one more room, and it's going to be room number 2, and it's going to get treasure number 0 from my list. And then let's console.log my rooms to see what's going on here. I think I'm going to remove this console log of treasures because I'm going to get a lot of output. Let's see. Save. I want to clear my terminal. I'm going to run the script again. So, first of all, it says the orc has 5 hit points. I have 30 pieces of gold. I'm happy about that. Let's make this a little bit bigger so we can read it. Here are my rooms. This is my rooms. There's an object. Okay. The object, it has ID 1. It has an orc. The orc is also an object that has some properties. So we can put one object inside another object. And you can see on how many spaces it is indented that it's easy to read. Everything here, the orc is moved in one step. And there's a treasure and there's a status, and then the next room starts. Let's move this down a little bit again. There are a few things I want to show you that I've showed you in class. The first one is, it's not easy to see here, but let's imagine I had done something like this, and no, that's not what I wanted. Like this, and maybe too many line breaks, and everything was just a mess like this. I want it does not look like things belong together now. So I can press Alt Shift F on my keyboard. Oh, it does not remove line breaks. Okay. But it cleans up everything else. If I did not put here, or I put too many spaces, Alt Shift F, it will just clean it up so it looks consistent. Everything has the correct indentation. There's one space after all of these values. Makes it easier to read. That was number one. Number two is, if I want to change the theme of my editor here, I hold down Control, and I press first K and then T, and then I let go of my Control key again. And it opens a list of themes, and I can just use my mouse to move down through the list, and I can choose different themes that I want. The theme I've been using in this video is my teaching theme. It is not the theme I use. It's not the theme I use myself. I use something like this, just dark. I recommend that you use something dark. If you have to sit and look at a white screen for several hours, you'll get really tired in the head. Escape to exit. Control KT. At the top of the list, if I use my mouse to scroll up, there are additional color themes. There are many more. And if you want, you can go to YouTube and you can find a video that explains how to make your own theme. I'm not going to go into this in this class.